Part A, liability coverage, contains two sets of exclusions. The first set of exclusions applies to any insured. The second set of exclusions applies to the ownership, maintenance, or use of specific vehicles. Liability coverage is not provided for any insured who intentionally causes bodily injury or property damage, causes property damage to property he or she owns or is transporting, causes property damage to property rented to, used by, or in the care of that insured. An exception exists for damage to a residence or private garage. This is the care, custody, and control exclusion. Is responsible for causing bodily injury to an employee of that insured during the course of employment by that insured. Owns or is operating a vehicle which is being used as public or livery conveyance, meaning it has been hired out to the general public. A vehicle used in the share the expense carpool is not considered a public or livery convenience. Let's continue our discussion with the exclusions that apply to the insureds who are not or do not have liability coverage. Liability coverage is not provided for any insured who is the following: is employed or engaged in the business of selling, repairing, servicing, storing, or parking motor vehicles, including road testing. Now, an exception does exist if the vehicle is being used by an insured, a family member, or a partner or employee of these. For example, Mary's son, Joe, is a mechanic, and if he is test driving Mary's car after fixing it and then crashes, the exception to the exclusion applies, meaning Joe has coverage. However, if Joe's coworker crashes his mother's car, the exception does not apply because he's not related to Mary, nor is he her partner or employee. Is using a vehicle while employed or engaging in the business. However, a coverage giveback applies to private passenger autos, pickups, vans, and owned trailers used with such vehicles. Is using a vehicle without the reasonable belief that he or she is entitled to drive it. Now, family members always have a reasonable belief of entitlement to drive a your covered auto under this coverage. Is insured under a nuclear energy liability policy or would be insured under one and causes bodily injury or property damage. The second set of liability exclusions applies to certain vehicles, specifically vehicles that have fewer than 4 wheels, such as motorcycles. Vehicles designed mainly for use off-road or off-public roads, such as snowmobiles or ATVs. An exception would apply for off-road vehicles used by an insured in a medical emergency that are trailers or that are non-owned golf carts. Vehicles owned by the insured that are not insured on this policy or that are not owned by the insured but are furnished to the insured or available to the insured's regular use, such as a company car. Vehicles owned by a family member that aren't insured or by this policy or that are not owned but are furnished to a family member or available for the family member's regular use, such as a company car. Vehicles located inside of a racing facility for the purpose of competing, practicing, or preparing for a race or a speed contest.